Hello and welcome to Hadoop Charter number 25 of Azure Support Academy, episode number 3. In this video, we are going to show you how to use an activity monitor in my Elastic database pool. My name is José Manuel Jurado. I am an escalation engineer working in Microsoft and subject matter expert in this technology. Well, before starting with the demo, let's start thinking about what is an Elastic database pool? Well, the main characteristic of Elastic pool is we have several databases running in the same SQL instance. So we are sharing the resources for all databases that we choose in Elastic pool. Mainly is the similar than we have in on-premises. We have one option that is possible to define specific resources, DTUs or vCores, depending on the database tier that you have, the service level that you have in database. You could configure, so you could monitor databases using multiple things, Azure Portal, Azure Monitor, Log Analytics, or run select resource stats. For example, Elastic resource stat that we are going to show you in the next in another demo. Use the sec request, use query store, or the queries that we provide in this demo. Also, about the best practice. Well, I think that it's very important to remark that all the database that we have, we don't have in Azure platform, in Azure SQL platform, we don't have in PaaS environment, we don't have the to rebuild indexes option or to update the statistics automatically. So in this, please follow up the script that we have in our blog about how to maintain the Azure SQL indexes. Also, I would like to suggest to review one lesson learned, 195, in terms to obtain the best performance practices for SQLDB and managed instance, and review or read the one specific link that we have about the resource management in dense Elastic pool. It's a very good information about what other practices are in terms of Elastic pool. Let's get started. What is the database, the Elastic database pool configuration? Well, right now the pool name is GM Jurado test. The configuration that I have is a general purpose 2 vCores with a storage size around 300 gigabytes. And right now I don't have any limitation in terms of number of vCores per database. And the database that are part of my Elastic pool, I have 3, GM Jurado test 1, 2, and 3.
As I mentioned before, the configuration of my Elastic pool is right now is a general purpose to vCores. Right now around 300 of gigas of data. I don't use right now some redundant. In terms of configuration, in terms of per database settings, right now, as I mentioned, is unlimited. So all the databases could use 2 vCores. Right now, I have 3 databases with this space used right now. And the settings that we mentioned is this. Basically, one thing that you could use in terms of starting the monitoring is to review the database resource utilization, because as you could see here, you could see what are the CPU usage, CPU usage, data space, log IO, workers percentage in this picture, in this graphic. You could see in terms of what is the use per database, and also as you could see in another databases in terms of monitoring, you could see right now other aspect in terms of what is the usage in terms of Elastic pool. Let's say in terms of CPU, in terms of IO, in terms of workers, you could see how is the Elastic pool here. Or if you want to see what is the resource utilization per database, you could use this picture that you could modify or could choose in terms, for example, in terms of log IO, what is the percentage? For example, right now I have some workload running. As you could see right now, this database to reaching the average is 28% in terms of IO and reach the 100% of the elastic pool. Sorry, the database, sorry, not elastic.
Well, how to monitor the queries that are running in my Elastic database pool? Well, basically, this is the query that I'm going to use. I'm going to run the typical Excel request that we have in SQL Server. I'm going to join this data with sections. Also, I'm going to, for obtain the queries, the text of the queries, I'm going to use execute text. But I'm going to use a new table that is called master data that I'm going to show you how to configure this one. Basically, this table is just only to know the name of the database that is running, because if you run select request, you are not going to see the name of the database.
Well, we have right now the same test, we are going to use the same tool that we used to use in different performance tests, connectivity tests, etc. So as we mentioned before, I'm going to use my server and the elastic pool test GM Jurado test. So I'm going to run the application. Right now, this application is using 16 threads. Also, the test is going against the pool database. In the next demos, we are going to use also a demo in managed instance. This test, I'm going to use this database pool, and in this test, this is a specific scenario because I'm going to use a mix of three processes. Several queries that is affecting too much in terms of CPU, another queries that is taking too much time in terms of bulk insert, another one is affecting too much in the 10dB. I'm going to run several operations that is affecting the in the 10dB, pH file, SCAM, other topics. So, as we mentioned, this test is against, we are going to run against these three databases. And as I mentioned, right now, every 16 threads is going to run a specific theme depending how the application decides to run these three processes. Right now, for the database number one, it's going to do a test at CPU, two bulk insert, the third high 10dB. Against the one we receive queries against the 10dB using this query, and we are going to do, as I mentioned, several processes dividing in between these 16 threads against three databases. So let's run the application. Right now, as you can see, it's running high CPU. Other test is running 10dB, bulk inserts, etc. So going to move the query, and we are going to run the query right now, the query that we showed you previously in the demo. So right now, when I run this process, as you could see, what is happening in my Elastic pool. Right now, this is the query that is running, select top, count, affecting the 10dB. This is the name of the database that is running, 1, 2, and 3. The different applications that I'm doing right now, the session ID, CPU is taking the process, what are the queries that is running or vulnerable, the wait type that is waiting for the resources. The wait resource is clear that when we have this type of resources, is the 10dB is affecting too much. The total elapsed time, the scheduled time, the process that we're running, the scheduler, memory, how many writes, how many reads, logical reads, and also we could see the blocking session. So, for example, right now as we have the session ID 73 is sorry, this session 84 is waiting for the 73 because as you can see here is running the same query, so it's affecting the 10dB, the main file of the 10dB. So we are running the queries. So basically, this is the option. But what happened in terms of my Elastic pool? So if I go my Elastic pool, if I click here in the overview, right now you could see what happened at Elastic pool level. Okay, so you could see that let's strike it here. Okay, perfect. I think that is much better. So right now the CPU is growing a lot in my database. Okay, sorry, in my Elastic pool. Also, you could see that most probably as we are affecting the bulk insert right now is affecting too much in terms of the log IO. That IO is not too bad because I'm not reading too much rows, and for the reason most probably all the data it's running are in the buffer pool. Workers right now we don't have too much, and basically this is the option. Even if we run a new chart, most probably perhaps we could choose the size of the 10dB, the log files. So at least we could see several metrics, several options that we have in the data, because it's clear that when I create this temporal table, as you can see here, is affecting in the graphic. It's clear that is what is happening. At the same time, you could see that right now the 10dB, and also it's clear that it's happening at level CPU level, that IO level, and that IO is increasing a lot of the process. So if I want to review what happened in terms of databases, you could go to the database resource utilizations. As you could see, in terms of databases, what are the contributions of the databases in this process, in terms of CPU or in terms of log IO. For example, 10dB number 2 right now in this part use 100%. Right now, again, it's this one, or the database number 1 is taking this process. So you could see this information that I think that is very interesting, because at the end also you could see what are the database size, because I'm inserting right now bulk inserts and my database is growing. So it's very important when you have this information in order to identify what happened with your database. The process is still running, but the most important thing is right now you could see running this query what happened in your database, what happened in terms of resource utilization. I'm going to this query has a special thing that I'm going to explain in the next. I'm going to explain in the next slide. But basically, if I remove master data, this table is this one. When I run the sys request, sorry, DB, 1 second, yeah. 1 second. Okay, sorry. Yes, it's true. So right now, I don't have the name of the database, but if I use, for example, rec database ID, as you can see here, you have the database ID, right? So the idea, basically, this master data table is an external table that is connecting to the master database, and based on these IDs, is connecting to the sys database in the master database in order to obtain the name of the database. It's basically is this, okay? But the most important thing right now, it's about that right now you could see what happened in your database using this simple statement code.
Well, to finish this demo, I would like to show you or share with you the script that I used to obtain the name of the database in the master the name of the databases using the master database. Basically, the idea is to create this external table choosing one of the databases that you want to run in your database. In this case, I choose my database number 1. I create the credentials. The second one, I define in the data source the server name and the database. And basically, the idea is to create the master table, okay, the master data, querying the object schema sys, the object databases, and just only obtain the name of the database and the database ID. With this, you could join this table to obtain the name of the databases in order if you need to obtain what happened with another database, etc. Okay, thank you so much for attending these sessions. If you have any questions, please send an email to gmjurado@microsoft.com.